Articulate, articulate, meaning to express ideas clearly and effectively. To express ideas clearly and effectively. I articulate my point carefully to avoid any misunderstanding. I articulate my point carefully to avoid any misunderstanding. Convey, convey, meaning to communicate or express something. To communicate or express something. I convey my thoughts clearly during important discussions. I convey my thoughts clearly during important discussions. Assert, assert, meaning to state something confidently and firmly. To state something confidently and firmly. I assert my opinion when I believe it adds value to the conversation. I assert my opinion when I believe it adds value to the conversation. Clarify, clarify, meaning to make something easier to understand. To make something easier to understand. I clarify my point to ensure everyone follows what I mean. I clarify my point to ensure everyone follows what I mean. Elaborate, elaborate, meaning to give more detail or explanation. To give more detail or explanation. I elaborate on my ideas when someone asks for more detail. I elaborate on my ideas when someone asks for more detail. Emphasize, emphasize, meaning to give special importance to something. To give special importance to something. I emphasize key points so they are not overlooked. I emphasize key points so they are not overlooked. Justify, justify, meaning to give reasons for something. To give reasons for something. I justify my decisions with clear and logical reasoning. I justify my decisions with clear and logical reasoning. Persuade, persuade, meaning to convince someone to do or believe something. To convince someone to do or believe something. I try to persuade others by presenting strong arguments. I try to persuade others by presenting strong arguments. Convince, convince, meaning to make someone believe something is true. To make someone believe something is true. I convince them by explaining the situation step by step. I convince them by explaining the situation step by step. Dispute, dispute, meaning to argue or disagree with something. To argue or disagree with something. I dispute the claim because it lacks solid evidence. I dispute the claim because it lacks solid evidence. Refute, refute, meaning to prove something is wrong. To prove something is wrong. I refute the argument by pointing out clear inconsistencies. I refute the argument by pointing out clear inconsistencies. Counter, counter, meaning to respond to an argument with an opposing point. To respond to an argument with an opposing point. I counter their argument with a more practical solution. I counter their argument with a more practical solution. Interject. Interject, meaning to interrupt with a comment. To interrupt with a comment. I interject briefly to add an important point. I interject briefly to add an important point. Interrupt. Interrupt, meaning to stop someone while they are speaking. To stop someone while they are speaking. I interrupt only when I need to clarify something important. I interrupt only when I need to clarify something important. Rephrase. Rephrase, meaning to say something again in a different way. To say something again in a different way. I rephrase my point to make it clearer. I rephrase my point to make it clearer. Summarize. Summarize, meaning to give a brief overview of the main points. To give a brief overview of the main points. I summarize the discussion to ensure everyone understands the outcome. I summarize the discussion to ensure everyone understands the outcome. Expound. Expound, meaning to explain something in detail, often in a formal or thorough way. To explain something in detail, often in a formal or thorough way. I expound my ideas clearly so others fully understand my reasoning. I expound my ideas clearly so others fully understand my reasoning. Question. Question, meaning to express doubt or ask about something. To express doubt or ask about something. I question the decision because it seems rushed. I question the decision because it seems rushed. Rebut. Rebut, meaning to argue against something with evidence or reasoning. To argue against something with evidence or reasoning. I rebut their argument with clear and logical evidence. I rebut their argument with clear and logical evidence. Negotiate. Negotiate, meaning to discuss something to reach an agreement. To discuss something to reach an agreement. I negotiate carefully to find a solution that benefits everyone. I negotiate carefully to find a solution that benefits everyone. Concede. Concede, meaning to admit that something is true after initially resisting. To admit that something is true after initially resisting. I concede the point when the evidence is clear. I concede the point when the evidence is clear. Acknowledge. Acknowledge, meaning to accept or recognize something. To accept or recognize something. I acknowledge their perspective, even if I disagree. I acknowledge their perspective, even if I disagree. Disclose. Disclose, meaning to reveal information. To reveal information. I disclose important details when transparency is required. I disclose important details when transparency is required. Highlight. Highlight, meaning to draw attention to something important. To draw attention to something important. I highlight key issues that need immediate attention. I highlight key issues that need immediate attention. Address. Address, meaning to deal with or discuss a problem. To deal with or discuss a problem. I address concerns directly rather than avoiding them. I address concerns directly rather than avoiding them. Forge. Forge, meaning to build a strong relationship over time. To build a strong relationship over time. I forge strong relationships by communicating honestly and consistently. I forge strong relationships by communicating honestly and consistently. Empathize. Empathize, meaning to understand and share someone's feelings. To understand and share someone's feelings. I empathize with people who face difficult challenges. I empathize with people who face difficult challenges. Entrust. Entrust, meaning to give someone responsibility because you trust them. To give someone responsibility because you trust them. I entrust important tasks to people who prove reliable. I entrust important tasks to people who prove reliable. Reconcile. Reconcile, meaning to restore a relationship after a disagreement. To restore a relationship after a disagreement. I reconcile with others by addressing issues openly. I reconcile with others by addressing issues openly. Accommodate. Accommodate, meaning to adjust to someone's needs or preferences. To adjust to someone's needs or preferences. I accommodate others when the situation requires flexibility. I accommodate others when the situation requires flexibility. Align. Align, meaning to bring ideas or people into agreement. To bring ideas or people into agreement. I align my goals with those of the team to avoid conflict. I align my goals with those of the team to avoid conflict. Integrate. Integrate, meaning to include someone or something as part of a group. To include someone or something as part of a group. I integrate new people into conversations to make them feel welcome. I integrate new people into conversations to make them feel welcome. Associate. Associate, meaning to connect or spend time with certain people. To connect or spend time with certain people. I associate with people who share a positive mindset. I associate with people who share a positive mindset. Engage. Engage, meaning to actively participate or become involved. To actively participate or become involved. I engage in meaningful discussions whenever possible. I engage in meaningful discussions whenever possible. Correspond. Correspond, meaning to communicate, especially in a formal way. to communicate, especially in a formal way. I correspond with clients regularly to maintain strong relationships. I correspond with clients regularly to maintain strong relationships. Advocate. Advocate, meaning to publicly support or recommend something. To publicly support or recommend something. I advocate for ideas that create long-term value. I advocate for ideas that create long-term value. Mediate. Mediate, meaning to help resolve a disagreement between others. To help resolve a disagreement between others. I mediate conflicts by listening to both sides carefully. I mediate conflicts by listening to both sides carefully. Neglect. Neglect, meaning to fail to give proper attention to someone. To fail to give proper attention to someone. I neglect important relationships when I focus too much on work. I neglect important relationships when I focus too much on work. Alienate. Alienate, meaning to make someone feel isolated or excluded. To make someone feel isolated or excluded. I avoid behaviour that might alienate others. I avoid behaviour that might alienate others. Esteem. Esteem, meaning to respect and admire someone highly. To respect and admire someone highly. I esteem people who remain calm under pressure. I esteem people who remain calm under pressure. Revere. Revere, meaning to feel deep respect or admiration. To feel deep respect or admiration. I revere individuals who demonstrate integrity and consistency. I revere individuals who demonstrate integrity and consistency. Absolve. Absolve, meaning to free someone from blame or guilt. To free someone from blame or guilt. I absolve others when I understand their intentions. I absolve others when I understand their intentions. Placate. Placate, meaning to calm someone down, especially when they are upset or angry. To calm someone down, especially when they are upset or angry. I placate others by listening carefully and responding calmly. I placate others by listening carefully and responding calmly. Uplift. Uplift, meaning to make someone feel more positive or encouraged. To make someone feel more positive or encouraged. I uplift others by recognizing their progress. I uplift others by recognizing their progress. Motivate. Motivate, meaning to encourage someone to take action. To encourage someone to take action. I motivate others by leading through example. I motivate others by leading through example. Inspire. Inspire, meaning to fill someone with the urge to do something positive. To fill someone with the urge to do something positive. I inspire others through consistent effort and discipline. I inspire others through consistent effort and discipline. Confront, confront, meaning to deal with someone or something directly. To deal with someone or something directly. I confront issues directly instead of avoiding them. I confront issues directly instead of avoiding them. Tackle, tackle, meaning to deal with a problem in a determined way. To deal with a problem in a determined way. I tackle difficult conversations with honesty and clarity. I tackle difficult conversations with honesty and clarity. Misinterpret, misinterpret, meaning to understand something incorrectly. To understand something incorrectly. I misinterpret messages when communication lacks clarity. I misinterpret messages when communication lacks clarity. Ostracize, ostracize, meaning to deliberately exclude someone from a group. To deliberately exclude someone from a group. I avoid behaviour that might ostracize others unfairly. I avoid behaviour that might ostracize others unfairly.